Welcome to Trouble with Tish. I am Tish, and I be Trouble. And if you're a returner, welcome back. Today we have the next chapter, which will be Chapter 8 of The Rise of the Deva'shi with Mask Monday. So if you want to find out what happens next, stick around.
Troubles on the mind, hands around your throat, out in open waters trying to stay afloat. Remember to forget the future and the past.
Alright, Mask Monday is in collaboration with the Beauty Ninjas. I have a playlist linked in the description box. Please go check out the other beautiful ladies and find out what they have going on for their Mask Mondays. Today we have Chapter 8 of The Rise of the Deva'shi, which I have a playlist for also in the description box. All the rest of the chapters are down there. So if you need a refresher, go ahead and check it out. Today's mask, we have the Dermal Aloe Collagen Essence Mask, and I could use the aloe because my face got kind of fried when we were out hiking the other day. So let me slap this on my face. Ooh, she is surmy. Let me slap this on my face and we shall get going. This mask is made from a nice thick cloth that holds lots of serum in it, so it feels really good. Alright, we got on our Egger Suit mask. I have my grumpy mug filled with strawberry matcha tea. It says, the grumpiest. Grumpy with love, gruff personality, short temper, always grumpy, bad mood, big attitude. That is me. Don't let this fool you. I'm not that nice. No. I act accordingly. I'm nice to those who deserve to be nice to, and I'm not nice to those who don't deserve my niceness. So, we got matcha, and we got our book, and we are on Chapter 8, so here we go. Chapter 8. The next morning, my stomach was wound in such knots I could hardly greet the elder son as he rose, for I had to tell Ashera that I wished to take Adher's place at the eastern border. The idea of leaving her was almost as terrible as leaving Elmar. I did not want her to think I was in any way unhappy with my place in Tegerden, or that I did not value her friendship, for the Queen had become very dear to me. I was so nervous that when I saw her door ajar, I entered her rooms without knocking. She was alone at her long table, which was piled high with maps. "So you have decided to become one of Bryn's?" she asked, without looking up. Before I could ask how she knew, she continued, "Elmar came to speak with me after he left you at your door. I do not think he approves of your decision." I sat down across from her. "Do you approve, my lady? Am I a fool to want to take Adher's place?" She looked up and grasped my hand across the table. "Whether or not you and I are fools is a question scholars will debate long after our demise. Do I think you need to do this? No, I do not. But I do know something of duty and obligation, so I understand why you feel the need." She gave my hand a gentle squeeze. "I'm sorry for wanting to leave," I said softly. "It isn't that I want to leave you, but I don't think I should have been here at all. If I had not asked Elmar to speak to you about Adher, I would have been sent to the border, and Adher would still be alive in the Sola. Elmar never would have allowed you to go to the border, unless you specifically asked for it." I gave her a questioning look, and while she did not seem certain she should speak further, she continued her explanation. "He insisted that you stay here. For all of his confidence in you, he feared for what would happen to you in the East." I did not know that. Elmar had never mentioned anything about his concerns for me at the border or elsewhere. I wondered what could possibly happen there he would want to shield me from, yet have no qualms over sending others to the same fate. The Queen gave me a gentle smile. "There is much you do not know about him, but you will learn in time." She pushed a map across the table. "Here, I have made notations for you." "You are not angry with me?" I thought she would be furious with me, or at least cross with my decision, but she was as kind as she ever had been. Ashera reminded me of nothing so much as a swan, always graceful and serene, no matter the state of the waters. "No," she said softly. "You feel a wrong has been done, and you want to right it. I would feel the same were our roles reversed. I cannot be anything but proud of you." "Thank you, my queen," I said as a tear rolled down my cheek. She came to my side of the table and embraced me while she gently stroked my hair. "Now, none of that," she said. "You will not be gone for very long, and we will all be here when you return. There will always be a place for you in Tegernen, as long as I am queen." I remained with Ashera until well after the child's sun rose, and we shared a simple meal of fruit while she also shared advice about the Eastern contingent. She told me that while Bryn was not a friendly person, she was a fair and just leader who always put her hunters before herself. The queen also warned me that life at the border was very harsh compared to life within Tegernen, and that rough life tended to give hunters a rough demeanor. Before I departed from the queen, she embraced me again and handed me the map she had prepared and reassured me that she understood my reasons. It was not as easy to convince Aaliyah that I was doing the right thing. She did not agree that I was in any way responsible for Adher's death and claimed it was his fate, not controlled by anyone save the gods. I revealed my request for Aylmar to consider Adher's naming along with my own, and my belief that this action had indeed contributed to his death. My hands trembled as I told her, so sure I was that she would find me at fault. Once I had confessed my wrongdoing, she again took on the role of the benevolent older sister. "You think you are responsible simply because you made a request of the first hunter and he honored it?" she asked. "He listened to you because he loves you. Don't you see that?" I was shocked into silence by her statement. Aylmar had never behaved as if he had any sort of feelings for me. Then I remembered how strangely he acted on the hill of Torum the day before, how he had held me and stroked my cheek. I thought of the prior night in the watchtower, of how he sat with me as I cried, and how he held me again at my door. While I had thoroughly enjoyed the closeness we shared, I thought he was merely comforting me in my sadness. I shared these instances with Aaliyah, who rolled her eyes as she responded. "For someone who is touted as the bravest and most intelligent among us, your skull is incredible thick," she said, not unkindly. "If he were any more in love with you, it would be emblazoned upon his head." I was quiet for a moment, and she watched the emotions play across my face. I remembered what Ashera said, that Aylmar had not wanted me to leave Tegernen, and how there were things about him I did not know, and I developed a burning need to learn exactly what they were. "Do you really think he may care for me?" I asked. "I think he cares for you more than even he realizes," she replied. I left Leah and searched everywhere for Aylmar, but he was nowhere to be found. Finley had no idea where he was and said that no one had seen him since before first dawn, when he took his horse and departed. I found that unusual, and Finley agreed that Aylmar rarely left the palace without informing him of his plans. The second hunter could tell I was distraught at his news and promised to alert me as soon as Aylmar returned. I thanked him for his help and turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm. "He will be back soon," Finley said. "Trust me. He won't let you leave without saying goodbye." "I fear he already has," I said quietly. Finley rumpled my hair, trying to distract me out of my depression, only to smooth down my curls. "Sweetheart, he will be here. I am sure of it." I appreciated his kind words and managed to smile before I went on my way. Despite Finley's insistence, I decided that Aylmar did not want to see me. I had missed my opportunity with him, if one had even existed to begin with. I convinced myself that Aaliyah was wrong and she listened to too much gossip. The next day, at mid-morning, I assembled with the rest of the departing hunters before the palace gates. Sleep had not come to me last night, and my slow movements betrayed my exhaustion. I sat in the watchtower for most of the prior night, hoping to see the first hunter returning to Tegernen, but he did not. I could not imagine where he had gone or why he had not told anyone of his destination. His words that he did not want to watch me leave rang through my head, and it seemed he had made good on his statement. My new contingent filed into formal procession, and the entire palace came to see us off on our journey. Ashera gave a short speech of how we were going off on a noble quest to defend Partholon's borders, as she always did, but I hardly heard it. Aylmar had still not returned. After almost 2 days, he had not returned, and it was breaking my heart that he was not there to see me off. He was always there when the contingents departed, and now he was avoiding the palace because of me and my foolishness. He had said his goodbyes 2 nights ago, and that was it. There was nothing more to say. I steeled myself for the journey ahead in hopes that once the palace was out of sight, I could turn my thoughts to other matters and try to forget. I turned from the amassed well-wishers to mount my horse, only to have Braun capture me in one of his great bear hugs, claiming that his little one could not get away from him that easily. The hunters of Teggernon clustered around me, giving me last-minute advice, telling me which villages had the best and the worst ale, and assuring me there would always be a place for me among them. Finlay, who had indeed become the brother I never had, whispered in my ear that Bryn was all talk, and that I would do well under her, and even Sour Anetha had kind words for me. Lastly, I embraced Ashera, and then Aaliyah, and I followed my new commander down the royal road and away from Teggernon. We passed under the stag and doe, my head hanging low as I studied my horse's ears, when we heard a thunderous gallop that caused my entire procession to halt. I twisted around in my saddle to determine who was approaching, only to see Aylmer riding from the north at a furious pace. He stopped before Bryn and gave her a quick instruction, and the procession line continued onward as he motioned for me to remain. "I told her you would catch up," he said when he reached me. "I'm sorry I'm late. I meant to return long before you set out." He dismounted, and I did the same. "You look exhausted," I said. "Where have you been?" His eyes were rimmed in red, and he looked as if he had not slept in days. I imagined that I looked the same. He awkwardly held out a bundle, urging me to take it. "I went to the north to get this for you." As I let the bundle unfold, I discovered it was a cloak spun of the finest gray wool. It had long sleeves and a hood, and the whole of it was lined in dark brown fur. I rubbed the fur on my neck, feeling its soft warmth as tears began to roll down my cheeks. I was stunned by his thoughtful gesture that he would journey for 2 solid days for the sole purpose of bringing me a gift. "I swore I was going to leave without crying," I said as I gave him a small smile. All I could manage at the time. What did I do to deserve a gift so fine? "It gets very cold at the border, and I won't be there to look out for you," he replied. I started to say I could keep myself warm, but it was not the time to be stubborn. "Thank you, Aylmer. I will miss you." "Not nearly as much as I will miss you, I'm afraid," he said softly. He placed the cloak around my shoulder and wrapped his arms around me, and I wound my arms around his neck, and he held me against him. "Remember, my lady, we are not finished here." We stared into each other's eyes, and before I had time to talk myself out of it, I stood on my toes, and I kissed him. I will never know what gave me the boldness to do so. I quickly touched my lips to his, but as I tried to move away, he held on to me, and kissed me as passionately as anyone has ever been kissed. I had never been kissed like that. Actually, had never been kissed at all, and the sensations that coursed through my body made me feel as if I would float away. My blood ran hot as his lips were on mine, and he grasped me harder, pulling me into his very soul. I clung to him as if I was drowning, and he was my only hope of breath, and took all he could give me. Once we parted, he pressed his forehead to mine, and I was again falling into the endless blue expanse of his eyes. I could not speak or even think as he held me with his gaze, and if his arms were not around my waist, I doubt I would have remained upright. When words finally did return to me, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "Why have you never done that before?" I asked, immediately wishing I had stayed silent. "I never thought you'd let me," Aylmer replied, as he gently stroked my cheek with his thumb. "Please don't cry. I can't bear to see your tears." I tried to smile for him, but another fell unbidden. As he leaned forward and kissed it away, I heard my horse fidgeting. Out of habit, I looked to her and saw that my new contingent was beyond the crest of the roadway, almost out of sight. I buried my face in his chest and murmured that I needed to go. He cradled me against him, and I knew if I waited another moment, I would never leave. The first time I tried to move, he would not allow it, and as I relaxed into his embrace, he promised that he would be waiting for me in that very spot when I returned. He released his hold on my body, and I mounted my horse, knowing full well that I was leaving my heart lying on the roadway. "You are right. We are not finished," I said, as he caught my hand and pressed it to his lips. I turned away before he could speak and followed the others, who by now had disappeared down the road. I did not dare look back, but I know he watched me until my form faded into the trees. It took us 6 days to reach the encampment of the Eastern contingent. During the journey, I rode at the back of the procession, hardly uttering a word to anyone. I did not look to the beautiful countryside we were traversing, and I barely managed to keep my wits about me. I only ate and slept because others were doing these things, and had they not reminded me, I would have sat on my horse until we arrived. I realized that my sorrow over Adhair's death was being replaced by despair over my own separation from Aylmer. I could not understand why he never acted on his feelings for me until days before I left, but I reminded myself that I shouldered part of the blame, for I hadn't spoken either. Every time I decided that I made a mistake by leaving him and resolved to turn my horse around and suffer the consequences of deserting my contingent, I remembered Adhair's body atop the pyre. I told myself I was going to the border to right a wrong, and I hoped Aylmer would wait for me. I knew I would wait for him. The 5th night was by far the worst. I was alone in my tent, wrapped in the cloak he gave me, when I came to a sudden realization. At that point in time, I was farther away from Aylmer than I had been in 2 winters, and I would not be any closer for 2 more. Again, I cursed myself for not seeing what had been right before my eyes, for not understanding my emotions for what they were, for not realizing what he meant to me until he was gone. I cried until I fell asleep from sheer exhaustion, only to be awoken by nightmares of Adhair mauled by demons. The morning of the 6th day we arrived at the encampment of the Eastern contingent. There was a long, low wooden structure called the Longhouse, which Bryn had erected many winters ago as shelter against the elements. That, and a small barn off to the left, were the only permanent edifices. In the open area before the house, a fire burned brightly from the first day of autumn until the first day of spring, and during the winter all stayed in the Longhouse, instead of their individual tents, to endure the bitterly cold winter. On this day there were several tents scattered about, which reassured me that the weather had not yet taken a turn for the worse. The first time I entered the Longhouse, I expected to see a gathering similar to the hunters in Tegernan. I was interested to meet the 10 hunters who had remained at the border, for I knew some of them had been there for many years, wanting to remain under Bryn's command rather than return to the palace for new assignment. What I saw was a motley collection who looked more like thieves and drunkards than those in service to the Queen. Bryn introduced me, and I was greeted with a glass of bitter ale, and asked if I was Adhair's girl. He was my friend, I replied, clearly confused. We spent time in the Sola together. I do not know what you mean by his girl. Bryn's second, one called Kevyn, who offered me the ale, eyed me as if I was not telling him everything. Adhair spoke of his Latera every day, saying he couldn't wait to complete his time here so he could return to the palace and claim you, he said with an unsavory glint in his eye. Kevyn's words made my blood run hot, not the pleasant heat generated by Aylmer, but hot in a way that made me curse Adhair's soul for saying such things. My anger was apparent, and the assembled hunters laughed at me, then tried to calm me by saying no one ever believed Adhair, for who would wait around for the likes of him? I sat with them before the fire and finished the ale, convinced that I should not have come to the border, and that I had indeed made the wrong decision. I now knew why Aylmer encouraged me to place distance between Adhair and myself. Aylmer must have known that Adhair spread such lies. The weather at the border became very cold very quickly, and every evening I silently thanked my first hunter. When had he become my first hunter? For my cloak. Some of the other hunters eyed it suspiciously, for it was a very fine garment, and those who had made the journey with me knew Aylmer had given me something. I did not tell anyone, not even Bryn, where I had obtained the cloak, as I did not want rumors to spring up at the border as they had in the palace. After all, I told myself, there was still nothing to tell, as one kiss hardly constitutes a relationship of any sort. The first demon I killed while at the border was almost as an afterthought. I had finished my nightly watch and was on my way back to the tent, when the beast leapt at me from the shadows. I cursed myself for not having detected its presence and dispatched it with one clean stroke of my sword. I stood over the corpse for a moment, noticing how the scales looked slimy and the lightning sky. And my next thought was that I needed to report the kill to Aylmar, which of course I could not do. Bryn seemed uninterested in reports of our kills. She assumed if we were alive and the demon dead, things must have gone well. Without thinking, I nailed and ripped the eye tooth from the beast, so I could remember it properly and report it to the first hunter upon my return. After I had burnt the body, I entered my tent and plunked the tooth in a small earthenware bowl, thinking that Aylmar would be pleased with my first success at the border. I tried very hard to remain as solitary as possible, which was not difficult, as I rarely entered the longhouse. I volunteered for the third watch and spent every night alone, perched on a cliff that overlooked the expanse to the east. My days were spent sleeping in my tent or caring for the horses, and I only interacted with the other hunters when directed by Bryn. One night, when the wind was frigid and howling, my commander paid me a visit during my nightly watch. "How long are you going to keep this up?" she asked me, and I questioned her as to what she could possibly mean. "This total disregard of your own comfort and safety. You may freeze to death if you remain up here every night and alone in your tent all day." I sighed and responded, "You are right. I will move into the longhouse when this watch is complete." She smiled at my easy acquiescence. "It's not so bad. You will come to enjoy it there. Even though you did not start off well with Kevyn, I believe he will still welcome you to his bed." "I would never sleep near him, let alone next to him," I exclaimed. "So it's true about you and Aylmar," she said with a sly grin. I began to protest, but Bryn continued to goad me. "You and he seem very well suited, the way you both enjoy making yourselves miserable. Tell me, does he still lug around that gigantic sword just to make himself suffer?" "How could his weapon make him suffer?" I asked. "He took it from a demon called Escoth. Maybe you've heard the story?" I replied that I had, but I did not know Aylmar kept the Morda's sword. "Yes, I remember it well," Bryn continued. "He made some kind of speech of how he would carry the sword in memory of all that had fallen that day, or something of that nature." "His sword is quite heavy," I said. "The first time I held it, I almost dropped it." "You've touched the first hunter's sword?" she asked with a sneer. I glared at her, letting her know that I would not speak of him that way. She and I stood together for a time before she spoke again. "Regardless of how you feel about him, he is not here," she said. "And if he was here, he would not shiver by himself when he could find warmth with another." "Aylmar is too noble to engage in such pursuits," I said indignantly. "Is that so?" she asked. "Remember, I have known him much longer than you. I knew him when he was first named, and when he was here at this very border. And," she leaned closer so I would receive the full impact of her words, "it is well known that Inetha and Ashera call him to their beds. Do you think he is alone, even now?" This revelation shocked me to my very core. I did not know if she had actual knowledge of this, or if there were more of the rumors that seemed to follow the first hunter wherever he went. But at the moment, I did not care. All I knew was that I felt like a fool. Here I was, freezing cold and pining away for one who probably did not even remember my name. I sank back on my heels and covered my face with my hands, trying to erase horrible visions from my mind. Bryn crouched next to me and placed an arm around my shoulder. "I know it seems as if I'm being cruel, but I only want you to know the truth of the matter. Trust me, it will ease your time here with us." She stood and took my hand and led me to the longhouse. I saw the other hunters sleep in twos and threes before the hearth, and I had to admit it was a great deal warmer than in my tent. No matter how my heart ached, I could not bring myself to believe her words or to approach another, for what if she was wrong and I betrayed Aylmar based on a lie? I made up my mind that I would not think ill of Aylmar based on a rumor, and in the center of my heart, I knew he would wait for me, just as he promised. I watched as Bryn joined the two closest to the fire and retreated to the farthest corner, now alone in a room full of people. The next night, I moved my bedroll to the barn and slept with the horses, as I had not so long ago. Alright, so next week we will have chapter 9. Alright, what do you think so far? This mask feels great on my face. And I like that I like how thick it is, the cloth. I thought that I liked thinner masks, but apparently not so much. This one feels great. It feels like it kept in the moisture a little bit better than the thinner cloth. Alright, so like I said, next week we have chapter 9. Alright, this is a collaboration with the Beauty Ninjas once again. There is a playlist in the description box for the other beautiful ladies. Go check them out, go send them some love. If you're trying to catch up on what's going on in the book, there's also a playlist down there for that as well. Yeah, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe here. All that good stuff is below. I hope every single one of you has an absolutely amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
Troubles on the mind, hands around your throat, out in open waters trying to stay afloat. Remember to forget the